You're listening to Bark and Wag's 15-Minute Vet Talk. Each week, your host, Polly Requa, interviews veterinarians and individuals in the pet industry from across the nation answering pet questions. Bark and Wag podcast is produced weekly for your enjoyment, and show notes can be found at barkandwag.com under the podcast tab. That's BARKNWAG.com. Please remember to subscribe to Bark and Wag 15-Minute Vet Talk.
Thank you for listening to Bark and Wag 15-Minute Vet Talk. Bark and Wag is dedicated to protecting our dogs through advocacy, education, and supporting like-minded dog lovers by selling custom pet products. Bark and Wag is excited to announce our new partnership with a Colorado hemp farm to produce a line of CBD products for your pets. Bark and Wag has CBD pet tincture available in 300, 750, 1200, and 2400 milligrams. Bark and Wag CBD is pet safe, no THC, it's made in the USA, and is CO2 extracted. Please check out Bark and Wag's website, barkandwag.com. That is BARK, to see our line of CBD and awesome merchandise. We love pooch ideas for podcasts and merchandise, so anytime send an email to Polly at barkandwag.com with your suggestions.
Welcome to Bark and Wag 15-Minute Vet Talk. I'm your host, Polly Requa. Today we're talking to Dr. Laura Brown, owner of Green Tree Animal Hospital in Libertyville, Illinois. Welcome, Dr. Brown.
Hi, Polly. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being on the podcast. I wanted to find out, what is mange?
All right, so mange, there's two kinds of mange, but both of them are little mites. One of them is called sarcoptic mange. And sarcoptic mange is the worst one. It makes the dog super duper itchy. It is contagious too to people and other dogs. And it's just chewing on the dog's skin and driving the dogs crazy. So mange used to be a lot bigger problem back when I got out of vet school because we didn't have all the good flea and tick products that we have now. But mange can be killed easily and preventable by using monthly flea and tick preventatives. So probably the most common place for your pet to pick up mange is out in the wilderness, like fox have it. So if your dog's out and digging around in the fields and comes upon a fox den and rolls around in there, you know, some of these rescue dogs have been out without any care. You know what I mean? Nobody's taking, they're out in the wilderness in the ditches and the, where the wild animals and stuff hang out. Foxes, raccoons, coyotes, all those guys. And so they're coming in contact with the bug there. And then once it gets on the dog, it's, that's what it loves to stay on the dog, and it will lay eggs, and the eggs will be on the dog as well. And so it's just this horrible, kind of like fleas, only because fleas multiply too and become this horrible thing. Fleas actually get a little bit more into the environment than scabies do. Scabies kind of like to live in they can live in the environment as well, but they seem a little bit easier to get rid of than fleas once you have them. But people can get scabies and they can live on you, whereas fleas don't live on people. So you.
Okay. And what mange cause the itching and then hair loss, right?
Yeah. I mean, the hair loss happens because the dogs are biting and chewing at themselves so bad. The last case of scabies I saw was probably about 2 months ago. And then I'm going to say that's the first one in multiple years. And the reason this poor dog came in, it had really long hair, but under the hair were these really thick crusts, and the dog had chewed its feet to like no hair, and its skin was super thick, and this yucky crusty stuff all over its legs, and some on her belly and her ear tips and stuff. And so the reason that dog had scabies is because the owner had a bad reaction to one flea and tick product that she had used. So she had stopped using anything, and the dog got exposed, and then it just went, like wildfire. So we just had to find the right flea and tick product that was safe for her dog. And because all the flea and tick products, the topical ones like Revolution, the oral ones like Simparica, NexGard, Bravecto, and even Frontline have the ingredients in there kills fleas, ticks, and biting lice and mange. So if they are used regularly, I don't even test itchy dogs for that anymore. Like we just had a podcast about atopic dermatitis, and your dog comes to the vet chewing and licking on their paws. One of my first questions is, are you using flea and tick products monthly? The answer is yes. Then I just check mange off the list. Don't even look for it. If they say no, then you got to go look for it.
Okay. So when you, even in Chicago, I'm in Colorado, and it gets cold, do you feel that you have to give flea and tick all year, or can you do it 6 months?
We do it all year round, because in the winter, in December, there's 50-degree temperatures. And because of that, there's ticks. Because of that, there's wild animal nests everywhere, and they're living under people's decks. And you know what I mean? The raccoons and skunks and stuff like that, or foxes, are burrowing under people's decks where their dogs live. And so, yes, we recommend it year round, because really in Chicago, if we're going to pick a few months, you would maybe not need to worry about it. It would be January and February. It's the coldest. But I mean, we had a frost last week on Monday, but then the weekend was 70. So you can't, just because there's been one frost doesn't mean all the bugs are gone.
What are wildlife immune to mange?
No, they have it. They just don't get treated. They're just miserable. That's why it keeps perpetuating itself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah.
So what medication? I think it's just a shot, right? You give them and it goes away, the mange?
You use a flea and tick product. So my mange dog, I put on Revolution, or the generic form of Revolution, which is called Celerid, once a month. It's a topical. So she took it. I did 2 doses 2 weeks apart, and then a third dose, and stays on it monthly, and then treat all the secondary bad skin stuff, like antibiotics, medicated shampoos, all of that stuff. But to get to the root of, and that dog had all that stuff done before. I got lucky as she came to me for a second opinion, because I knew all that regular stuff that you use for atopic dermatitis hadn't worked for the dog. That was my big trigger. Like, oh, ding, ding, ding. There must be something else. Like the flea, like the mange thing, that it's just so uncommon that we see that anymore, is because 95% of the population's using something that does take care of fleas and ticks along with their heartworm prevention.
Okay.
So
So that's good that Frontline handles it.
It does. You just got to do it monthly. And Frontline's an over-the-counter one. So, it's you don't need a prescription for Frontline.
Yeah. I think you can even get it at Costco.
Right. Target, Costco, wherever.
Okay.
Just be careful. You make sure you know how much your dog weighs, because it goes by weight. And the other thing is to make sure when you apply it, you part their skin, or you part their hair and put it on their skin. It has to get on their skin and go to get into the sebaceous glands to do its thing. You can't just blob it on a big blob of fur. It might not get where it's supposed to go.
Yeah, on the back of the neck.
Yeah. And then you got to go check the environment where your dog's hanging out, and keep them out of that under the porch thing.
Yeah.
Or stop walking in the ravine.
Well, that's a little hard, but
yeah,
it's better just to give them the medication.
Exactly. There you go.
Well, thanks for being on the podcast, and we look forward to having you back.
You're welcome. I look forward to coming back.
Thank you for listening to Bark and Wag's 15-Minute Vet Talk. If you like what you just heard, we hope you'll pass along our web address, www.barkandwag.com, to your friends and other pet owners. Have a pressing question for a veterinarian? Ask your question at barkandwag.com under the podcast tab. This has been a KFR production. Join us next time for another edition of Bark and Wag's 15-Minute Vet Talk.